and high school and middle school and everything. I'm sure everybody's got someplace else they've got to be here shortly. So I'll call to order the Zoning Advisory Board meeting for the City of Calhoun on September 7th, 2017. And first ask, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes, and do I have a motion to amend or approve the minutes from the July 13th, 2017 Zoning Advisory Board?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, then to quickly review of policy and procedures, agenda items are going to be introduced in alphabetical order. Report of the legal organ and publications on agenda items, signs posted on proposed properties, notification evidence adjoining property owners by city administrator designee shall be provided. Applicant may make a presentation and may be questioned by the Zoning Advisory Board. Comments from the general public in this proceeding are allowed if they have filed a disclosure notice 5 days before hearing per Title 36, Chapter 67A of the Official Code of Georgia annotated. Each person speaking shall provide their name and address, and we need people to make sure we do that so that it's adequately recorded for the minutes. The applicant may rebut negative comments. A maximum time limit of 10 minutes for each side shall be set by the chair. Let me first inquire of all the members of the Zoning Advisory Board if the standards for governing the exercise of zoning power are included in each member's manual for their reference, as it should be. Anybody missing that? Nope.
Back there.
All right. Do any of the members of the Zoning Advisory Board have any ownership or interest or in any agenda items, including any possible pecuniary interest that may need a filing for proper disclosure? All right, that being said, we move right on into the items. Item A on the agenda is an annexation and zoning request for R1B for .17 acres at a location of 108 Yarborough Street by Judy Curtis. Mr. Peterson, have all the notices been run in the legal organ, the signs posted on the adjacent properties, notification evidence been provided to adjoining owners and by the city administrator or designee?
All notices, publication, advertisement, legal requirements have been met.
All right. And was the matter reviewed by the Zoning Review Committee, and were there any negative considerations or concerns?
There were not.
All right. And so the recommendation of the Zoning Advisory or the Zoning Review Committee was that there are no
particular problems.
Okay. All right. Then let me ask first: is there anyone? Is Ms. Curtis present? All right, Ms. Curtis not being present, is there anyone here who would like to speak to the Zoning Advisory Board in opposition to the zoning annexation and zoning request? Is there any discussion amongst the members of the board?
Do we need to know why she wants it?
What was the stated purpose for the zoning?
Yeah, rental property, the kids going to the Calhoun schools, same as several others here.
Okay.
All right, so that being said, do I have a motion of the Zoning Advisory Board for first annexation of 108 Yarborough Street into the city?
I move.
Second.
All right, there being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that there were no opposition votes, and therefore the recommendation be for the Mayor and Council for annexation on Monday night. I then have a motion regarding zoning of R1B for this .17 acres at 108 Yarborough Street. There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the recommendation, the motion passed for a recommendation to the Mayor and Council with no opposition for zoning this property as R1B after annexed by the city on Monday. Moving on to agenda item item B, it's an annexation and zoning request for R1 for .83 acres at a location of 113 Peter Street by Maria Fitz Solis. Mr. Peterson, have all notices been published, posted, and provided?
Yes, they have.
Was there a matter reviewed by the Zoning Review Committee?
It was, and this was another kids in Calhoun school system. The only thing that stood out was there is no sewer service in this area. Everything else is fine.
All right. Would that be an impediment, Don, to their is that an impediment to their annexation? Okay.
There's sewerage down Peter Street.
It's not that far.
113. I thought 118 was. I mean 125. Mom and Daddy's house.
It may be an elevation thing.
Elevation thing.
Oh, okay.
Is Ms. Salas present? All right, Ms. Salas not being present, is there anyone here in opposition to the request for annexation and zoning? All right, there not being the applicant here or anyone in opposition, do I have a motion with regards first to annexation of .83 acres at 113 Peter Street into the city?
So moved.
All right, there being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the Zoning Advisory Board's recommendation to the Mayor and Council is for annexation with no opposition. The next question is, do I have a motion with regards to zoning .083 acres as R1 at 113 Peter Street?
Is it R1 or
R1.
I'm so moved.
There being a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect then that the Zoning Advisory Board has made a recommendation for a zoning request change of R1 for the .83 acres after annexation and without opposition. Moving on to item C, an annexation and zoning request of R1 for 1.04 acres located at 117 Peter Street by Israel Vasquez. Mr. Peterson, have all notices been published, posted, and provided?
Yes, sir.
Was the matter reviewed by the Zoning Review Committee?
It was. This is similar to the other request, get those kids in the Calhoun school system, and the only item, this also has no sewer service. Everything else is clean.
But again, that would not necessarily be an impairment as long
No,
as they
not
have
on,
septic.
they've been there forever anyway.
Okay. Is Israel Vasquez present? Mr. Vasquez, did you want to address the board, or? Step forward, please, and state your name. Do you have anything you wanted to say to the Zoning Advisory Board? Okay. Is there anyone here in opposition to the request? All right, there being no desire by the applicant to address the board and no one here speaking in opposition, do I have first a motion to annex the 1.04 acres located at 117 Peter Street into the city?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the Zoning Advisory Board is recommending annexation with no opposition. Do I then have a motion regarding zoning 1.04 acres as R1 pursuant to the city zoning ordinance for that property?
So moved.
There being a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect then that the Zoning Advisory Board recommendation is for zoning it as R1 after annexation at the City Council meeting. Moving on then to item D, a zoning change request from Industrial G to R2 for 1.93 acres at a location of 203 Edmund Street by Haley Stevens. Mr. Peterson, have all notices been published, posted, and provided?
Yes, I have.
All right, was the matter reviewed by the Zoning Review Committee?
It was. I'd rather read this one for the record if I can borrow your glasses.
Yes, sir.
The zoning request from Industrial G to R2 for 1.95 acres location of 203 Edmund Street by Haley Stevens. Dominic again stated the applicant is requesting rezoning from Industrial G to R2 for approximately 1.95 acres to build one-bedroom energy efficiency apartments. The property is bounded on the north by property zoned R2 and C2 and bounded on the southeast and west by property zoned Industrial G. The 1 acre property zoned R2 to the north has a building that was renovated into 2 apartments in 2003. The request of rezoning to R2 for the property would allow for the existing 3,675 square foot building to be converted into 300 square foot apartments for affordable housing. R2 zoning for the property would be appropriate for the considered use. Street Department reported this is a dead-end street with no turnaround. The Police Department had no issues. The Fire Department had no issues. The Electric Department showed the property is currently served by Calhoun Utilities. Water and Sewer Construction Report states this area is served by a 6-inch water line running along Pine Street and a 2-inch water line running in Edmund Street. The existing structures are served by a 6-inch sewer line located near the intersection of Pine Street and Edmund Street. Some of the property is lower than the existing sewer main and cannot be served by gravity flow sewer line.
There may have been an error because that existing building was zoned previously. It's on the part that was already zoned R2.
Okay.
And so this is a request for rezoning to R2, is that correct, Don?
Yes.
All right, and if I understand correctly, pursuant to the zoning ordinance, R2 requires that no two-family or multifamily dwellings, townhouses, fee simple, condominiums, duplexes, or triplexes shall be permitted in any R2 residential district upon any lot of record which has been of record for 40 or more years as of May 1, 2002. Anybody review whether or not that's been on record?
This is property zoned industrial, has been for years, and Paul Lust in 2003 zoned 1 acre of that R2 and built. That used to be a drugstore and we made it efficiency apartment.
Okay, but the remainder of the industrial G property, has that been on record as industrial G for 40 years or more?
Yeah, but it's still not a subdivision.
No, I understand, but the remaining industrial G that's being asked to be converted to R2 has been on record as industrial G for 40 years or more as of May 1st?
I don't know how long it's been for.
Okay. All right. Let me ask then, is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? I see there's something up here, so I'm sure there is. Step forward, Mr. Stevens, and if you'd make sure we get on the record your name and address.
Amy Stevens, 3217 Red Bud Road, Calhoun.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. May 16th of last year, I came into this room and the Housing Ability Coalition, Gordon County, was meeting. Got a chance to meet Roberta, and there were some interesting facts that came out of that meeting that really surprised me. We had been working, Vicki Booker and I, with some of the homeless in the area, but we're interested in what the housing needs might be in Calhoun, as we had heard that it was very tight to find affordable housing. We did find some statistics that we just had a hard time believing. Georgia ranks 5th from the bottom in the United States, poverty-wise, and this county ranked 93rd in the last census that they did on that. I couldn't find a 93. I'm not out of disrespect this councilman and the committee, but that is something that we found astounding. And from that, we converted our efforts from feeding the homeless to maybe looking at affordable housing. That fall, we went to the council to alert the council to this fact and what we had learned. We also learned that in 1999, 9.9% of our population lived in poverty. And by 2014, 15 years later, that figure had risen to almost 18%. Now, interestingly enough, in 2002, the city council decided that instead of having a 360 square foot minimum in Gordon County, we should have an 800 square foot minimum. I'm not suggesting that the poverty rate doubled solely because of that, but the question is, do we care? Are we going to do anything about it, or is it okay? I've heard it said that Calhoun's a Walmart town. They certainly got their share of fast food and dollar stores, and if that's all we want to be, maybe that's okay. That's certainly not my decision to make. We did decide that fall after we went to the council, and when we went to the council, our objectives were, number one, to make sure people knew that we had 1 out of 5 people virtually in Gordon County living in poverty. And obviously that directly correlates to affordable housing. We thought getting the word out was very important, and we thought educating people a little bit about maybe one way to deal with that. We didn't go to the council asking for a bunch of money. We didn't go to the council thinking that we needed together a petition to gauge the interest in the community. To date, that petition has about 600 names on it. That petition read, whereas poverty is a rampant problem in Gordon County and affordable housing is a scarce or non-existent commodity, and whereas this problem is especially difficult for veterans and senior citizens, Hand-Up Housing proposes the construction of garden efficiencies of 300 square feet per unit. These units would be complemented by a community garden. Most of the cost associated with the project provided by Hand-Up Housing in the community. The city and county would only be asked to provide utilities and landscaping or grounds maintenance. We felt like the city needed to have some skin in the game. We didn't particularly want to get in the apartment business or the tiny homes business. We thought it was one way to deal with the problem. Maybe the city had a better idea, but that's kind of how that developed. We have recently looked at a program in Worcester, Massachusetts, which requires you to either have a full-time job or be in school full-time. We have since looked at a 24-month maximum period to live in this unit, except in special circumstances, such as being 65 or whatever age. I don't think that would be good to kick somebody out just because they're old. Of course, my views on that's changed over the years, I guess. But this model has worked in Worcester, Massachusetts, requiring you to either be working full-time or in school. We, like I said, didn't come asking for a whole lot of money. Maybe we didn't ask for enough money. I've been told that the last project that was done here, that was an $11 million project, and has 64 units at the Cherokee Lofts. That works out to about $172,000 a unit. Our plan was for a $25,000 expenditure. We do believe that we could possibly stretch these apartments out from 300 to 360 square feet and make it into a two-bedroom possibility. That may require a little bit more money, but I understand that the city provided $300,000 to the loft, and under our projections, a 50% loan at 8% over 20 years is just over $2,000, but at 3%, it's closer to $1,400 a month. I think we've got a short presentation that we'd like to show you specifically about this project. This property on Edmond Street has a couple of duplexes on the right. They're 3-bedroom duplexes. This is only part of the property that's been in use, I believe, the last 20 years. There's a good bit of retail, grocery stores and that sort. It is on a dead-end street, so we look at that as being an improvement over the situation that we had on the last property we looked at. This building here would be used for a laundromat, computer area, library area, pretty good sized building, and our on-site director would have a living quarters there as well. It is a site where our neighborhood where affordable housing has generally been utilized by the city of Calhoun, I guess as long as there's been a housing authority. This building is in pretty good shape, really. and we do feel like a laundromat and some essential services such as computers and library would be handy here. The total, we tried to look at each and every objection to the last property, and this site deals with that. Number one, the neighborhood is predominantly low-income housing. Number two, it contains a duplex already. Number three, it is a site convenient to grocery stores and other necessities. Number four, the site is in a low-traffic dead end. Number five, at the end of the dead end is the Family Resource Center. Number six, it allows us to build 40 units potentially instead of 20. Number seven, it allows us to rehab a building for our own site director and laundromat. And number eight, it allows us to put some deserving families into affordable housing this year, 2017, not on a 25-year plan as one city councilman suggested. Dennis, did you want to say a couple of words?
Yes.
Dennis, just like that, he's an example of one person.
These areas that you see right here. Can you pause a second, Tim? These areas right here. This is, again, my name's Dennis Powers. I live at 293 South Sequoia Circle, Northeast, Calhoun, Georgia. The last time I got up here and spoke, I had an attack, and I was a little slow on that one, and I'm just now coming out of another one, and I'm exhausted, but as soon as I'm up and going, I don't stop. I go 24/7 trying to get these projects, trying to find the kids. Some of you already know that I do the gaming. I have the game trailers. I have the game center right there behind Grandstand. We have TVs all the way around, and we hear all the stories, you know, parents trying to find places. We get a lot of the homeless kids that come in there that parents are on drugs. But they're still going to school. And there's some situations here that maybe we can change using these centers here. And we took the advice that we was given. You told us to go out to the community, talk to them. You asked us to go talk to other programs and projects out there. They were awesome. They gave us all kinds of information. And can I share some of their names? Is that okay? Like, we went and seen the housing authority, spoke with them. We went and spoke with the VAC. They gave us feedback and information. Again, we took that knowledge, and as soon as we got it, we didn't just say, hey, the day's over, let's go home. We immediately went back, started working on it around the clock while trying to do our business, while trying to help the kids and everything. We're really serious about this. You guys seen the field. That's the area that we're trying to change over. We've got the parking out. We got the security the way that maybe they're checking in with their ID card to where it doesn't end up like the lodge, I believe it is, that the trouble where anybody can come and go. We don't want that. We're wanting to be everybody said we need a place that's going to be a stepping stone to get into a permanent place, and that's what we're going to be, a transition. We're going to be sitting there trying to help them either get off drugs or get the education, work with maybe the bridge program. We're wanting to work with everybody. I mean, I literally, if I could beg you guys just to go with me for one day and just stay right beside me, you'll see how hard we work on this project. You guys asked us, you know, to find a different location, make it safer, make it closer, and that's what we did. Wrote the slides real quick just to show you a little bit of what we're trying to do to where you know, this is a small area, 360 square feet. You've got the bathrooms. Go ahead, Jim. That's fine. Right there. I'll talk right there. As you can see, you can kind of see through everything. Those poles and stuff, they readjust and everything. We want to try to make it as open as possible, make them feel like, you know, they are stepping into the future, not just another hotel room or something like that. We want to make the transition, make them feel like, hey, I'm going somewhere now. You know, there's no more, I got to wake up and see the riffraffs outside that are causing
to speak in, or anyone wanting to make a public comment? Please step forward.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And if you would state your name and your address for the record.
Okay, my name is Gail Brown. I live at 397 Finley Road, Sonoraville. I work over here at the Housing Authority. I'm the ED there. And I came today because Haley and Dennis did approach us this time around. We didn't hear from them the last year when they first started, but we've heard about this project and how hard they've worked on it. And I admired Haley in the beginning and still do, that he wants to make a difference in this community. I really do hold him in high regards for that. But I met with him I've met with him several times in just the last couple of weeks, and I felt like there's definitely some concerns on our part with what he's trying to do. So I thought I would just come today to just let you know what our concerns are at the Housing Authority. When they first approached us, they were mentioning affordable housing, which is what we've been working on for the last few years. And while we were talking with them, they asked if I thought that we needed affordable housing, and I said, yes, we need affordable housing and transitional housing. So Dennis, I guess, asked me to explain that a little bit more, and I told him that was just to help someone temporarily hold a family over until we could house them or someone else could house them. But what concerns me is that they've switched from affordable housing in just the last 2 weeks to transitional housing, which lets me know that they do not have the experience and the knowledge that they need to go into something like transitional housing. We've been, at the Housing Authority, we've been working on the affordable and transitional housing, and there's just a lot that goes into that. We've found developers, we've hired grant writers, consultants, we've met with the low-income housing tax credit experts. There's a lot of people out in the community. It takes a lot of people to make something like this successful. And that's why I feel like Haley and Dennis's hearts are in the right place, but they are nowhere near having the experience, the credentials, and the information that they need to make a project like this successful. I thought it was interesting, the little area that he just showed that had the duplex on it. That area there, which Haley didn't know at the time, we had to contact, as the Housing Authority, we had to contact the city and ask them to come out and clean that area up, because it had been rented out, but it wasn't managed properly. And there were trailers parked there. The individuals that lived there were coming across the street and bothering and threatening our tenants. They had dogs chained to a pole, which is something that we would never allow at the Housing Authority. So there were a lot of problems until those two families were evicted. So that just proves my point that I'm trying to make, that you have to have the right manager there. And in the budget that Haley presented to us, he's got a manager there, but he's only going to pay them minimum wage. You cannot find a manager for $7.50 or $7.25 an hour that's going to do the job that they need to do. You need a lot more experience than someone that's willing to work for minimum wage there. So one of our other concerns was the fact that he wants to put families, and we discussed this, families in these small units. I have to go by the HUD standards that regulate us, and I don't think that Haley understands, and I think they sort of switched during our discussions, that they would put in veterans and maybe seniors or just one individual in these units, but they're still not clear on what they want to do. They want to help families. Yes, I'm all for that, but they cannot put a family of 4 in a unit that is only 400 or 500 square feet. It just absolutely will not work, and it doesn't meet HUD standards. So if those standards are good enough for HUD, they ought to be good enough for the city of Calhoun, to follow there. So that was something else that I had a problem with. And for the Housing Authority, we're wanting to support projects that offer quality, affordable housing that revitalizes our city and stabilizes the neighborhoods. We're afraid that with what they're trying to do, because they lack the knowledge and the skills to manage a property like this, that it would fall into decline. And then we're their neighbors. We're the ones that are going to have to deal with that. Let's see. There's a lot that I would love to tell you about. Haley's also worried about the city taking 25 years to address this housing need. I thought about that after he had mentioned that to me, and I just want to say for the record, the city has partnered with us. The city wants affordable housing. They just partnered with us. We submitted a grant. We weren't successful, but we know now after doing a debriefing that we're very close to being successful and being awarded a grant where we would build additional affordable housing. And so to sort of stick up for the city here, they are trying to partner and they are trying to do their part to provide affordable housing, but they're like us. They want it to be sustainable and to revitalize this city. Another project that we've had going on, I'm kind of bragging a little bit, but this is something that the city has partnered up with us on and helped us, is we have created a nonprofit, New Foundations Development, Inc., and we have revitalized and rehabbed over 150 homes here in the city of Calhoun and Gordon County and Bartow County, a few homes there. So I feel like we're doing what we can for at the moment, and I also want to say these grants that we're trying to go after, that we have to find people to help us put out the RFP and the RFQ and the low-income housing tax credit experts, all of those. That money is highly competitive, and it takes a lot of work to get that. So it might appear that we're not accomplishing anything, but we are. So I have a lot more that I could tell you if anyone wanted to come and sit down with us over at the Housing Authority, but because everyone wants to get home, I'll just say that respectfully, although we admire Haley and Dennis, at this time we would like to ask the zoning committee not to approve his zoning request. Thank you.
I don't own this property, so it's a little bit unfair for me to be pinned with the tenants that have been there in the past and what problems you might have had over the years, but I certainly apologize for that. This has been, as I said from the outset, a mission that we thought, number one, that we needed to alert the city of Calhoun to the fact that we are 93rd in the state, poverty-wise. That may be perfectly happy with the majority, and if it is, so be it. We also thought that we should educate folks on tiny homes. We asked to look at a two-prong approach. One, to make tiny homes legal in the city and county, and also to look at our specific project. And we pointed out from the outset that we were not experts in housing, and we would prefer the city to come up with their own plan. Our plan has evolved. This information that we have just gotten in the last couple of weeks about what works in Worcester Housing Authority, it goes kind of exactly opposite of generation after generation living in public housing. And our project's never been anything about a handout. We're perfectly fine with the city coming up with a proposal, or if the people of Calhoun figure that 93rd in the state is good enough, so be it. Thank you.
Hold on one second, because you're really not supposed to rebut to everybody else. Is there anybody else that want to make comments first? Because step forward. State your name and your address for the record.
I'm Roberta Charbonneau, coordinator for Family Connection, Gordon County, and my office is located at 343 South Wall Street. We've met with Haley and Mr. Powers recently after Mayor indicated last August that we should meet further. We were contacted within the last 2 weeks to offer some insight and review plans. So a couple of the things, and if I may, I would like to quote from a summary of the meeting minutes that I shared with Haley and with Dennis, and I tried to send it to the secretary, but that bounced. So there's an email issue there. First and foremost, the low-income housing is needed, but it's for young families, single parents and custodial parents of children. An efficiency or one-bedroom lodging is not suitable as it's defined for even defects families. You cannot put any child, other than like a newborn, into a one-bedroom property. The minimum must be 2 bedrooms. Security is a huge factor. I think the majority of families placed in any nonprofit agency who provide housing in this community, that includes the bridge, which was mentioned. Voluntary Action has emergency funds, but also DFACS and domestic violence. All of them go through the process of vetting their locations where they're going to place because of liability insurance, security, and 24/7 monitoring. Veterans and older singles and couples, as I stated back in August, have alternatives. We have the Housing Authority. We have Action Ministries, who's very active in this community for veterans. They can be housed for as little as $100 a month. So we haven't even talked about the money that this is looking at. The first number we heard was around $700–800. Now it has gone down into the $400 to $500 for 300 square feet, or 360. We also discussed that I have been in my position nearly 10 years, and we have talked about shelters. We have talked about churches participating, like other counties around us, in Family Promise is one example. We worked for almost 2 years to try to get that kind of a shelter where a church would be responsible for housing or providing housing for a family who might be in need. We were not able to be successful. United Way participated, a couple of the larger churches, and those meetings were held at the Baptist Association, and it did not go. We even had a building that was potentially being donated to us. It was perfectly constructed. It was in a U shape. The center was potential eating, the main office for the 24 security, one entrance, a male side, a female and family side. But we had the opportunity to have national level people come into this community and speak about housing. And they toured that facility with us. And they said, start up, and just to get it to maintain an annual program is a minimum of $250,000 a year. This community cannot afford $250,000 a year for a shelter. We are served very adequately by the shelters in the surrounding counties. And if it's needed in certain instances, the schools and or domestic violence can provide bus service or transportation for those children to be in their same school districts. So then I referred and sent 5 different sites for further education for Haley and his team. Georgia Homeless, National Homelessness, End Homelessness, Donna Beagle's site, as well as Ruby Payne's site. And again, this was just 2 weeks ago, within the last 2 weeks. I don't think that's possible that they've become proficient in that. So my bottom line is security. And another part of that security is there are medically and mental health fragile children at the Family Resource Center. They are there because they're traumatized. They already have requested of the city to have the wrecked cars blocked because it is an additional trauma for these children, as well as for those custodial parents. We also have LAHO, who is within 1 block virtually of this, and they do a summer program. There's a playground at the Housing Authority that is within 1 block, and that is a major concern to me. I don't believe that Haley, in all of his work and his good heart, I don't think he has a real understanding of nonprofit services. When we talked, we asked about the cost of utilities and those deposits. Those were not going to be covered. So therefore, you're looking at your coming in at $400 to $500 plus your utility deposits. That could be close to $1,000. And none of the agencies that I'm aware of in our community will currently, well, there's one, will pay deposits. So it's just an exorbitant. If, however, that was covered, that might be getting in the range. A lack of knowledge of really homelessness as a national issue. And then, again, as Gail stated, the credentials. There was a news story just recently where veteran housing and homelessness, the homelessness of veterans has cut in half over the last 10 years. So that is down 50%. So I think the county and the city do have a plan. I have been sitting on the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission. I know that I have spoken with the city council before and talked about the major issues, which I feel are transportation, low-income housing, as well as hunger and crime, which are kind of the top hot buttons, along with substance abuse. But each of those are being addressed in that Northwest Georgia Regional Commission for that next 10 years planning, which is what I think Haley alluded to as to the 25-year plan. And I was assured by many of the attendees who were at that planning session that they were looking at low-income housing and acknowledged it as an issue.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hate to do this, but I've been watching the clock. I got to start using the 10-minute time limit. Is there, if you'd like to make a quick rebuttal?
Okay. I feel like my character was attacked, saying I don't know what I'm doing. My background was a DOD contractor. I shipped 1,000 people out of this country overseas, putting them through housing, through NBC training, through weapons training, through survival. You don't get better in homeless than that. Plus, I've been homeless. I've lived out of a car, so there's my experience for that. But I picked myself up. I became a soldier. I built a great company while serving for my military. I tell you, running this project is not much different than the military is, because we know how to get out there and live. And I can teach those people how to get out there and live, how to fight to get back. I mean, we are fighting. We were told that, hey, there's going to be people that's going to come after us. but all we're trying to do is work. And I feel like everybody, it's like the phone call Haley got, oh, you're just out for money. I really beg you guys to come spend a day with me and see what it is that I'm doing in this community, because just after what I heard, I've gotten hungry. I mean, I am hungry to make this project work. And I have lupus. I have a spinal injury. I can go play dead and live off of my income, but no, I'm out here fighting for this community. I've gotten kids jobs. I've gotten kids places to live, and I fight for them. I'm telling you, we can do this. The only reason we switched from affordable housing to transition was that we were trying to work with you folks. And you said, it's not going to work. There's only 9 vacancies in the whole county, and those are currently being either cleaned or fixed or something like that. And you said, I said, well, what can we do better? You guys said, hey, transition. So I went after that. That's what we're trying to push. But I tell you what, I'm hungry. And I'm coming. I will find a way to fight for this. I'm on fire. Look up my background. Look up my company. Spend a day. You guys really don't know me. And you'll see the thousands of people that I move through. I staff 43% of the personnel overseas in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Djibouti. You'll learn the people that I've trained. Shake your head, and that's all I got to say. Thank you, guys.
All right, that having well exhausted the time allotment, and we still have other agenda items, let me first ask, are there any questions of the Zoning Advisory Board, of the applicant, or any of the people who spoke?
I do have a question about the HUD standards. I'm not familiar with the HUD standards at all, so I would like more information about that. And I wasn't aware that the city put up $300,000 for the Cherokee Mills.
We didn't. It was a $500,000 grant from the state of Georgia.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm not on the list to speak on the housing authority. If there's time for me to
No, ma'am. At this point, I need to close it because we have one other item, and we've already been in a meeting for 45 minutes. Anything that is done here still has to be subject to the mayor and council's approval, so you'd be invited to attend Monday's meeting, because whether or not the recommendation is made or not, the mayor and council can override the zoning advisory board. I wouldn't let her. I can't let you. You've had one chance to rebut, and he's had a chance to rebut. I mean, I'm sorry. We're under time constraints. That being said, do I have a motion then regarding the zoning change request from Industrial G to R2 for 1.95 acres at a location of 203 Edmond Street?
I have a question.
Okay.
Would they want the zoning without the variance?
Well, it's two separate questions, so we'd have to get through the first motion first before we get to the second.
Okay.
Procedurally, for parliamentary procedure. So first, is there a motion regarding a zoning change request from Industrial G to R2 for 1.95 acres at 203 Edmond Street?
Don, do you recommend this?
I recommend that to straighten our zoning ordinance up. I mean, they still be allowed, the property be allowed to build apartments, but they'd have to meet our square footage at this point.
Okay, so I make the motion.
All right,
Go ahead.
I have a motion to for the zoning change request from Industrial G to R2. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? All right, therefore the recommendation of the Zoning Advisory Board would be to convert this to from Industrial G to R2. That being said, then the next request is for a variance request to reduce minimum building square footage from 800 to 300 square feet at a location of 203 Edmond Street, which is a reduction of 500 feet. Do I have a motion with regards to that variance request? Again, do I have a motion to grant or recommend? There being no motion by parliamentary procedure, the variance request would fail. You're again advised to be present on Monday because, again, the mayor and council have separate authority. This is just a recommendation board. Nothing here controls. That being said, then I would move on to item F left on our agenda, which is a rear setback variance request of 10 feet to reduce the minimum distance from 20 feet to 10 feet at a location of 127 Oakhurst Terrace Northeast by Stephen J. Smith. Let me first ask Mr. Peterson, have all notices been published, signs been posted, and notifications been provided?
Yes, I have.
Was the matter reviewed by the zoning review committee?
It was, and the review committee had no problems whatsoever with this request.
All right, is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant? Mr. Smith? You're requesting the setback variance for, what's the purpose for the variance? Is this for handicapped access? Yes. Okay, all right. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to that? There being no one here to speak in opposition to that, do I have a motion then for a variance to reduce the setback from 20 feet to 10 feet at 127 Oakhurst Terrace Northeast by Mr. Smith for the very purpose of putting in an apparatus for access to a pool for a handicapped individual?
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second? There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect then that the Zoning Advisory Board has recommended to the Mayor and Council granting of the variance request of 10 feet. And that leaves no active items on the agenda, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anybody second?
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion would carry and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, and everyone would be invited to be there Monday night.